I was sitting in my living room folding laundry when my phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line read, "Thank you for your generous contribution to Emma's baby registry." My hands froze mid-fold, a towel dangling from my fingers as confusion washed over me. I hadn't made any contribution. I clicked the email open, my heart beginning to race as I scanned the details. According to the message, my credit card ending in 4829 had been linked to my daughter Emma's baby registry, and several items totaling over $800 had already been purchased using my card. My daughter was having a baby shower and apparently I was paying for it. The only problem? I had no idea there even was a baby shower. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. I stared at the screen, reading the email 3 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. There it was, clear as day. A link to the registry showed my card information stored as the primary payment method, with a note that read, "Gifts purchased by Mom." My stomach twisted into knots. I hadn't entered my card information. I hadn't agreed to this. And most importantly, Emma hadn't mentioned a single word about a baby shower to me. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through the registry, item after item marked as purchased. A designer stroller, an organic crib mattress, a luxury diaper bag, a glider chair that cost more than my monthly car payment. Each item felt like a slap across the face, not because of the money, though that stung too, but because of what it represented. My daughter had taken my credit card information without asking, used it to fund her baby shower, and hadn't even bothered to invite me. I grabbed my phone and called Emma immediately, my pulse pounding in my ears as the line rang. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice cheerful and light. "Hey Mom, what's up?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but it came out tight. "Emma, I just got an email about your baby registry. It says my credit card is linked to it." There was a pause, then a casual laugh that made my blood run cold. "Oh yeah, I meant to tell you about that. I figured you wouldn't mind since you're the grandmother. Everyone expects grandmothers to help out with these things." I closed my eyes, forcing myself to breathe. "Emma, you didn't ask me. You just took my card information and used it." Her tone shifted, becoming defensive. "I didn't take anything, Mom. I used the card you gave me for emergencies last year. This is kind of an emergency. Babies are expensive." I felt my chest tighten. That card was supposed to be for true emergencies, like if her car broke down or she needed medical help, not for luxury baby items. "And the baby shower," I said slowly. "When were you planning to tell me about that?" Another pause, longer this time. "It's next Saturday. But honestly, Mom, I didn't think you'd want to come. It's mostly my friends and Daniel's family. You'd probably feel out of place." The words hit me like a physical blow. Out of place. At my own daughter's baby shower. For my first grandchild. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. "So you're using my money to pay for gifts at a party I'm not invited to?" Emma sighed, the kind of exasperated sigh she used to give me as a teenager when I questioned her decisions. "It's not like that. You're being dramatic. I just thought this would be easier for everyone. You get to contribute without having to deal with all the social stuff, and I get what I need for the baby. It's a win-win. A win-win." I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, wondering when my relationship with my daughter had become a transaction. When had I become nothing more than a credit card with no feelings attached? I heard voices in the background on her end, laughter and music. "Look, Mom, I have to go. We're at Daniel's parents' house planning the shower. Just let the registry thing be, okay? It's already done." Before I could respond, she hung up. I stared at the blank screen, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. The laundry lay forgotten at my feet, and I sat there in the stillness of my empty house, feeling more alone than I had in years. This wasn't the first time Emma had treated me like an afterthought. Over the past few years, especially since she'd gotten engaged to Daniel, I had slowly become less of a person in her life and more of a resource. She called when she needed money for the wedding. She called when she wanted me to watch her dog while she went on vacation. She called when she needed someone to co-sign for her new apartment, because Daniel's credit wasn't good enough. But she never called just to talk. Never called to ask how I was doing. Never called to say she missed me. I stood up and walked to my desk, pulling out my bank statements from the past 2 years. As I flipped through them, a pattern emerged that I had been too blind, or maybe too willing to ignore, to see before. $300 for her bridal shower that I wasn't allowed to help plan because Daniel's mother had already taken care of everything. $500 for her bachelorette trip to Miami, a trip she posted all over social media while I sat at home wondering why I hadn't been invited. $700 for her wedding dress alterations, even though I had offered to do them myself since I used to so professionally. $400 for furniture when she moved into her new place, furniture she never even thanked me for. The numbers added up, climbing into the thousands, and with each transaction I remembered the casual way she had asked, the expectation in her voice that of course I would say yes, because that's what mothers do. I thought back to when Emma was little, when she would crawl into my lap with her favorite book and ask me to read it for the 100th time. I thought about the Mother's Day card she used to make by hand, covered in glitter and crooked hearts, telling me I was the best mom in the world. I thought about the way she used to hold my hand when we crossed the street, trusting me completely to keep her safe. Somewhere along the way, that little girl who loved me had grown into a woman who only saw me as a means to an end, and I had let it happen. I had let her treat me this way because I was afraid that if I said no, if I set boundaries, I would lose her completely. But sitting there, looking at those bank statements and that registry full of items I was apparently expected to pay for without even being acknowledged, I realized something that made my chest ache. I had already lost her. The rest of the week passed in a blur. I tried to go about my normal routine, going to work at the library where I had been a cataloger for 15 years, coming home to my quiet house, making dinner for one. But everything felt different now, like a veil had been lifted and I could see clearly for the first time. I noticed how my phone never rang unless it was a spam call or a bill reminder. I noticed how my neighbor Mrs. Chun got visits from her daughter every Sunday, while my Sundays were spent alone. I noticed how the mothers at the library would talk about their grandchildren with such joy, showing pictures and telling stories, while I had nothing to contribute because I wasn't even invited to be part of my grandchild's life yet. On Thursday evening, I received a text from Emma. It was a screenshot of the baby registry with more items added, and beneath it she had written, "A few more things we realized we needed. Thanks, Mom." No question mark. No request. Just an assumption that I would continue to fund her life without complaint. I stared at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to type back, "Of course, sweetheart, anything you need." That was the part of me that had been trained over years to be accommodating, to be the giving tree that kept giving until there was nothing left. But another part of me, a part that had been growing stronger since I saw that first email, wanted to say something else entirely. I put the phone down without responding and opened my laptop. I logged into my credit card account and removed my card from Emma's registry. Then I changed my card number entirely, requesting a new one be sent to me. My hands were steady as I did it, and I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. When I was done, I picked up my phone and sent Emma a simple message. "I've removed my card from your registry. Going forward, you'll need to manage your own expenses." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within minutes, and it wasn't a text. My phone rang, Emma's name flashing on the screen. I answered, bracing myself. "What do you mean you removed your card?" Her voice was sharp, angry. "Exactly what I said. I didn't agree to have my card on your registry, and I'm not comfortable with it." There was a sound of disbelief, almost a laugh. "Are you serious right now? You're really going to do this? I'm about to have a baby, your grandchild, and you're going to be petty about money." I felt my jaw clench. "This isn't about being petty, Emma. This is about respect. You didn't ask me. You didn't invite me to your shower. You just expected me to pay for everything while being excluded from the celebration." Her voice rose. "I told you you wouldn't have wanted to come anyway. And this is what grandmothers do. Daniel's mom has already contributed thousands to help us. Why can't you just be supportive like her?" The comparison to Daniel's mother stung, but I pushed past it. "Has Daniel's mother been invited to the shower?" Silence. Then quietly, "Of course she has. She's helping plan it." I nodded to myself even though she couldn't see me. "Then we're not the same, are we? She's contributing because she's involved. She's part of your life. I'm just a wallet." Emma's voice turned cold. "I can't believe you're making this about you." I'm the one who's pregnant. I'm the one who needs help. But fine, if you want to be selfish, be selfish. Don't be surprised when you're not involved in your grandchild's life. The threat hung in the air between us, sharp and cutting. For years that threat would have worked. The fear of being shut out would have made me backtrack, apologize, transfer the money immediately. But something in me had shifted. Emma, I said quietly, I have always been there for you. But being there for you doesn't mean letting you treat me like I don't matter. If you want me in your life, in your baby's life, then you need to treat me like family, not like an ATM machine. She hung up without another word. I sat there holding the phone, my heart pounding, tears threatening to spill over. I had just set a boundary with my daughter for the first time in her adult life, and it felt both terrifying and necessary. The silence that followed was deafening. No calls. No texts.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
No apologies. It was as if I had committed some unforgivable sin by refusing to be used. By Friday I had made a decision. I wasn't going to sit in my house all weekend feeling sorry for myself while Emma had her baby shower without me. I wasn't going to let her make me feel small and insignificant anymore. I called my sister Rebecca, who lived 3 hours away in the mountains. Beck, I said when she answered. Are you busy tomorrow? She laughed. For you? Never. What's going on? I told her everything. The registry, the credit card, the baby shower I wasn't invited to, the phone call, all of it. And when I was done, there was a long pause before she spoke, her voice tight with anger. That girl needs a reality check. And you need to get out of that house. Come up here. Stay the weekend. We'll go hiking, drink wine, and remind you that you are so much more than a credit card. I packed a bag that night, throwing in comfortable clothes, hiking boots, and a book I had been meaning to read for months. As I zipped the suitcase closed, I felt lighter than I had in days. I wasn't running away. I was choosing myself. The next morning, I woke up early and loaded my car. Before I left, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a selfie. Just me standing in my driveway in the early morning light, smiling. I posted it on social media with a simple caption. Weekend getaway with my sister. Choosing joy today. I didn't mention Emma. I didn't mention the shower. I just focused on the fact that I was doing something for myself and it felt good. As I drove toward the mountains, my phone buzzed repeatedly. I glanced at it at a red light and saw messages from Emma, from Daniel, even from his mother. But I didn't read them. Not yet. Right now I was driving toward something better, toward a version of myself that I had lost along the way, a version that knew her worth. When I arrived at Rebecca's cabin, she was waiting on the porch with 2 mugs of coffee. She pulled me into a tight hug and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." We spent the afternoon hiking through trails lined with pine trees, the air crisp and clean. Rebecca didn't push me to talk, but eventually I did. I told her about all the times I had swallowed my feelings to keep the peace. All the times I had said yes when I wanted to say no. All the times I had convinced myself that being a good mother meant being endlessly available, endlessly giving, endlessly selfless. You know what the problem is? Rebecca said as we sat on a rocky outcrop looking down at the valley below. You taught her that your needs don't matter. And now she believes it. I knew she was right. I had modeled a relationship where I always came second, and Emma had learned to expect that. But it wasn't too late to change. It would be hard, and it would require me to stand firm even when it hurt, but it wasn't too late. That evening, as Rebecca and I sat by the fire with glasses of wine, I finally looked at my phone. There were 17 messages. Most of them were from Emma, each one more desperate than the last. Mom, where are you? People are asking about you at the shower. Daniel's mom is asking why you're not here. This is so embarrassing. Can you just come? Please. There was also a message from Daniel that made my blood boil. You're being incredibly selfish. Emma is stressed enough without you causing drama. You need to apologize and make this right. And then at the very end, a voicemail from Emma. I pressed play and her voice came through shaky and tearful. Mom, everyone keeps asking where you are. I told them you were sick, but I don't think they believe me. Daniel's mom brought this beautiful handmade quilt for the baby and everyone clapped. I wish you were here. I know I messed up, But can we please talk about this later? Just come to the shower. Please. I listened to the message twice, my heart aching. Part of me wanted to get in the car right then and drive the 3 hours back to make everything okay. But Rebecca, who had heard the voicemail too, put a hand on my arm. Don't you dare, she said firmly. She's not sorry for what she did. She's sorry that it's making her look bad. There's a difference. I knew she was right. Emma wasn't calling because she understood how she had hurt me. She was calling because my absence was inconvenient for her. I put the phone down and looked at my sister. What do I do? Rebecca smiled sadly. You do exactly what you're doing. You hold the line. You show her that you're not going to be treated this way anymore. And if she wants you in her life, she has to earn that privilege by treating you with respect. So I didn't respond. I didn't drive back. I didn't rescue her from her embarrassment. Instead, I spent the evening by the fire, talking with Rebecca about everything except Emma. We talked about our childhood, about our parents, about the dreams we had when we were young. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Sunday morning, I woke up to find a new message from Emma. This one was different. Mom, the shower is over. I know you're mad at me. Can we please talk? I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. I'm at Aunt Rebecca's. I'll be back Monday evening. We can talk then if you'd like, but only if you're ready to have an honest conversation. Her response came quickly. Okay, I'll come over Monday night. I spent the rest of Sunday hiking with Rebecca, soaking in the peace of the mountains before I had to return to reality. As we drove back down the winding roads that afternoon, Rebecca turned to me and said, Whatever happens tomorrow, remember that you deserve to be loved, not used. Don't settle for less. I hugged her tightly before getting in my car, her words echoing in my mind as I made the drive home. When I pulled into my driveway that evening, I felt both anxious and resolute. Tomorrow everything would change. Either Emma would finally see me as a person, or I would have to accept that our relationship might never be what I had hoped. But either way, I was done being invisible. Monday evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. I had spent the day at work barely able to concentrate, my mind spinning through every possible version of the conversation I would have with Emma. Part of me hoped she would walk through the door with genuine remorse, ready to rebuild our relationship. Another part of me braced for more defensiveness, more justifications, more reasons why I was the one in the wrong. At exactly 7 o'clock, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Emma standing there, her hand resting on her growing belly, her face carefully neutral. Hi, Mom, she said quietly. Come in, I replied, stepping aside to let her pass. We sat in the living room, an awkward distance between us on the couch. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Emma broke the silence. The shower was nice. We got a lot of good stuff for the baby. I waited, saying nothing. She shifted uncomfortably. A lot of people asked about you. I told them you weren't feeling well. I took a breath and spoke carefully. Emma, I wasn't sick. I chose not to come because I wasn't invited. She looked down at her hands. I know. I just didn't know what else to tell them. There was another long pause before she continued, her voice small. Daniel's mom asked me point-blank why you weren't there. I tried to brush it off, but she kept pushing. So I finally told her the truth, that I hadn't invited you. You should have seen the look she gave me, Mom. She was so disappointed. I felt a flicker of something. Not satisfaction exactly, but perhaps validation. What did she say? Emma's eyes filled with tears. She said that if I was treating you that way, maybe I wasn't ready to be a mother myself. She said mothers deserve respect, and that if I couldn't respect my own mother, I'd never teach my child to respect me. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she wiped it away quickly. She's right, isn't she? I've been awful to you. I felt my own throat tighten, but I kept my voice steady. Yes, Emma. You have. She looked up at me, her face crumbling. I'm so sorry, Mom. I don't know when it started, when I began thinking of you as just someone who could fix my problems or pay for things. But you're right. I've been treating you like you don't matter, and that's not okay. I wanted to reach out and comfort her, but I held myself back. Words were easy. I needed to see if she meant them. Emma, this isn't just about the baby shower or the credit card. This is about years of you taking me for granted. I need to know that you understand that. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I do. I've been thinking about it all weekend. About all the times I called only when I needed something. All the times I excluded you from things but still expected your help. All the times I chose Daniel's family over you without even thinking about how that made you feel. She took a shaky breath. I think I started resenting you after Dad left. I blamed you for the divorce even though it wasn't your fault. And instead of working through that, I just pulled away. And the farther I got, the easier it became to treat you like you weren't a real person with real feelings. This was the most honest Emma had been with me in years, and it hurt to hear, but it also felt necessary. Your father leaving was hard on both of us, I said quietly. But I never stopped being your mother. I never stopped caring about you. And I didn't deserve to be punished for something that wasn't my fault. She nodded, tears streaming down her face now. I know. And I'm so sorry. I want to fix this, Mom. I want you to be part of the baby's life. I want you to be part of my life. But I understand if you need time. I felt my own eyes welling up. I do need time, Emma. And I need more than just an apology. I need you to show me through your actions that things are going to be different. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. I know this doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to have this. I opened it to find a check for $840, the exact amount she had charged to my credit card. I sold some of the stuff we got at the shower that we didn't really need, and I picked up extra shifts at work. It's not about the money, I know that. But I wanted you to know that I'm taking responsibility. I stared at the check, surprised. This was more than I had expected. Thank you, I said softly. This means a lot. Emma wiped her face and took a deep breath. I also wanted to ask you something. I know I don't deserve it, but would you be willing to come to my next ultrasound appointment? I want you there. Not because I need something from you, but because I want to share this with you. I felt something shift in my chest. This was different. This was her making an effort to include me, not just use me. When is it? I asked. Next Thursday at 2, she said. I know you work, but if you can't make it, I understand. I thought about it for a moment. I can ask for time off. I'd like to be there. Her face lit up, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a glimpse of the daughter I used to know. Really? I nodded. Really? But Emma, I need you to understand something. I'm willing to give this another chance, but I'm not going back to the way things were. I'm not going to let you treat me like I'm disposable. If you want me in your life, you need to respect me. She reached out and took my hand. I will, Mom. Promise. I'm going to do better. We sat there for a while holding hands, both of us crying quietly. It wasn't a magical fix. It wasn't a happy ending yet. But it was a beginning, and that was something. Over the next few weeks, Emma made an effort. She called me just to talk, not to ask for anything. She invited me to lunch and actually showed up. She sent me pictures from the ultrasound and asked my opinion on baby names. It was slow, tentative, like two people learning to trust each other again. And I remained cautious, watching her actions carefully, making sure this wasn't just a temporary change. When the baby was born 3 months later, Emma called me from the hospital, her voice exhausted but happy. Mom, she's here. Can you come meet her? I drove to the hospital with my heart full, and when I walked into that room and saw Emma holding my granddaughter, I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Emma looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Mom, meet Lily. Lily, this is your grandma. I held that tiny baby in my arms, and I knew that everything I had gone through, all the pain and the boundaries and the hard conversations, had been worth it. Because now, I wasn't just a credit card or a convenience. I was grandma, and I was respected. As I rocked Lily gently, Emma said softly, Thank you for not giving up on me, Mom. Thank you for loving me enough to tell me the truth, even when it was hard. I looked at my daughter, at the woman she was becoming, and I smiled. That's what real love does, Emma. It doesn't just give endlessly. It also teaches, and sometimes it says no. Because real love wants what's best, even when it's difficult. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. And in that moment I knew we were going to be okay. Not perfect, but okay. And that was enough. Months later, as I sat in my living room with Lily sleeping peacefully in my arms while Emma prepared lunch in the kitchen, I thought about how far we had come. The house that had once felt so empty was now filled with the sounds of family again. But this time it was different. This time I wasn't giving everything away until I was empty. I was giving from a place of wholeness, and the difference was everything. Emma brought out 2 plates and sat beside me, watching her daughter sleep. "You know," she said quietly, "I'm glad you stood up to me. I'm glad you went to Aunt Rebecca's instead of coming to that shower. Because if you hadn't, I would have kept treating you that way forever." I looked at her. "And now?" She smiled. "Now I know better. Now I know that being a good daughter means respecting the woman who raised me. And I want to teach Lily that too." As I looked down at my granddaughter's tiny face, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. Because I had finally learned the most important lesson of all. That sometimes the greatest act of love isn't giving more. It's knowing when to stop. It's setting boundaries. It's demanding respect. And it's teaching the people we love that we are worth more than what we can provide for them. We are worth being loved for who we are, not what we can give. The first few months of Lily's life passed in a haze of wonder and watchful waiting. I visited Emma and Daniel's apartment twice a week, always by invitation, never showing up unannounced the way I might have in the past. Each visit felt like a small miracle. Watching Emma cradle her daughter with such tenderness, seeing her transform into the mother I had always hoped she would become. But I remained alert, watching for signs that the old patterns might resurface, that the apologies and promises might fade once the newness of motherhood wore off and the exhaustion set in. It was 6 weeks after Lily's birth when the first real test came. I was at work, cataloging a new shipment of reference books when my phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen, and I felt that old familiar tension creep into my shoulders. I answered, keeping my voice neutral. "Hello." Her voice came through frantic and breathless. "Mom, I need your help. Lily has been crying for 3 hours straight and nothing I do is working. Daniel is at work and I'm losing my mind. Can you come over right now? Please." Every instinct in my body screamed at me to drop everything and rush to her rescue. That was what the old version of me would have done, abandoning my own responsibilities to fix her problems. But I took a breath and thought carefully before responding. "Emma, I'm at work until 5. I can come over after that if you still need me. But have you called the pediatrician? If she's been crying for 3 hours, that might be something they should know about." There was a pause, and I could hear the frustration in Emma's voice. "I didn't think of that. I just thought you could come and help me figure it out." I softened my tone but held firm. "I understand you're stressed, sweetheart. But I can't leave work in the middle of the day. Call Dr. Morrison's office. They have a nurse line that can help you. And if it's still bad when I get off work, I'll come by." I heard her take a shaky breath. "Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll call them." She hung up, and I sat there feeling the familiar guilt wash over me. Part of me wondered if I was being too harsh, too rigid with my boundaries. But another part of me knew that if I went running every time she called in a panic, I would teach her that her needs always trumped my commitments, and we would slide right back into the old dynamic. An hour later, Emma texted me. "Called the nurse. She said it might be gas and showed me some techniques. Lily finally settled down. Thanks for the advice." I smiled at my phone, relief flooding through me. She had handled it herself. She had called the appropriate resource and solved the problem. That was growth for both of us. When I did visit that evening, Emma greeted me at the door looking exhausted but calmer. "I'm sorry I panicked earlier," she said as she let me in. "I just felt so overwhelmed and you were the first person I thought to call." I hugged her gently. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed. Being a new mother is hard. But I'm glad you called the doctor's office. That's exactly what you should do in those situations." She nodded, carrying Lily over to me. "I think I've been relying on you as a crutch instead of learning to trust myself. The nurse actually made me feel like I could handle it." I took Lily from her arms, breathing in that sweet baby smell. "You can handle it, Emma. You're a good mother. You just have to believe that." The weeks turned into months and slowly, cautiously, our relationship continued to heal. Emma started hosting small family dinners, insisting that she would cook even though I offered to help. The meals weren't always perfect. Once she burned the chicken so badly we ordered pizza instead, and we all laughed about it. But the effort mattered more than the outcome, and I made sure to tell her that. Daniel, who had been distant and somewhat hostile toward me after the registry incident, gradually warmed up. One evening, as Emma was putting Lily down for the night, He pulled me aside in the kitchen. I owe you an apology, he said, his hands shoved in his pockets awkwardly. I said some things that were out of line. About you being selfish. I didn't understand what was really going on. I studied his face, seeing genuine remorse there. Thank you for saying that. It hurt, hearing those things from you. He nodded. Emma told me everything. About how she'd been treating you for years. About the credit card in the shower. I'm ashamed that I didn't see it. I just thought that was how your relationship worked, and I didn't question it. I leaned against the counter, choosing my words carefully. Daniel, Emma is your wife and I'm glad you support her. But support doesn't mean enabling bad behavior. It means helping her be the best version of herself. And sometimes that means challenging her when she's wrong. He looked down at his feet. I know that now. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of father I want to be. And I don't want to raise Lily to think she can treat people however she wants as long as she gets what she needs. I want her to understand respect and boundaries and all that stuff. I felt a warmth spread through my chest. That's good, Daniel. That's really good. He met my eyes. So I want to do better. With you, I mean. I want Lily to see her grandmother being treated with respect. And I want to make sure Emma keeps working on it too. Because I know it's easy to slip back into old habits when things get stressful. I reached out and squeezed his arm. I appreciate that more than you know. As autumn arrived and Lily reached 4 months old, Emma asked me to babysit for the first time. She and Daniel wanted to go out for their anniversary dinner, and she wondered if I would watch Lily for the evening. I agreed immediately, thrilled at the prospect of having my granddaughter to myself for a few hours. But when the evening came and Emma was giving me detailed instructions about Lily's routine, I noticed something that made my stomach clench. She had written out a schedule that was impossibly rigid, down to the minute, with instructions that seemed designed more to control me than to help Lily. Bath at exactly 6:30, not a minute later. Bottle warmed to exactly 98 degrees. Bedtime routine must include the white noise machine, the specific lullaby on her phone, and exactly 3 minutes of rocking. If she cries, wait 5 minutes before picking her up. I looked at Emma carefully. Sweetheart, this seems like a lot of very specific rules. What if Lily needs something different tonight? Emma's face tightened. This is her routine, Mom. It's important to stick to it. I felt the old familiar pattern emerging, the need to control every detail, the lack of trust in my judgment. I took a breath. Emma, I raised you. I know how to take care of a baby. I think I can handle one evening without a minute-by-minute schedule. Her eyes flashed with something, anxiety or maybe defensiveness. I just want to make sure everything goes smoothly. Is that so wrong? Daniel stepped in, putting a hand on Emma's shoulder. Babe, your mom's got this. We talked about this, remember? About trusting other people and not needing to control everything. Emma looked between us, her jaw working. Then she closed her eyes and took a breath. You're right. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm being ridiculous. She crumpled up the detailed schedule and tossed it in the trash. Just do what feels right. You know what you're doing. I smiled at her. Thank you. We'll be fine. Go enjoy your dinner. After they left, I looked down at Lily, who was staring up at me with those big curious eyes. Well, little one, I whispered. Looks like Grandma gets to do things her own way tonight. The evening was perfect. Lily and I had our own rhythm, our own way of being together. When she got fussy, I didn't wait exactly 5 minutes. I picked her up and held her, swaying gently until she settled. When bath time came, it wasn't at exactly 6:30, it was when she seemed ready for it. And when she fell asleep in my arms during our rocking time, I didn't put her down immediately. I just held her, breathing in that baby sweetness, feeling grateful for this second chance. When Emma and Daniel returned, they found me reading on the couch with Lily sleeping peacefully in the bassinet beside me. Emma rushed over, checking on her daughter with anxious hands. How did it go? Was she okay? Did she cry a lot? I laughed softly. She was an angel. We had a wonderful time. Emma looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something shift in her expression. I was so worried. I almost called you 3 times during dinner. Daniel chimed in. I had to hide her phone in my jacket pocket. Emma smiled sheepishly. I'm working on it. The control thing. My therapist says it's related to anxiety and trust issues. I sat up straighter. You're seeing a therapist? She nodded. Started a few weeks ago. After everything that happened with you, I realized I had some stuff to work through. About dad leaving, about control, about why I push people away, while also expecting them to take care of me. My eyes welled up. Emma, I'm so proud of you for doing that. She sat down beside me. I want to be better, Mom. Not just for Lily but for me. And for us. I pulled her into a hug, and for the first time in years, it felt like holding my daughter again. Not a stranger who happened to share my blood. Over the next several months, I watched Emma work hard in therapy, confronting patterns and beliefs that had shaped our relationship for so long. She started calling me just to talk, sharing funny stories about Lily or asking for advice without it being a crisis. She invited me to mother-daughter lunch dates, just the two of us, where we talked about everything and nothing. She even apologized for things I had forgotten about, small hurts from years past that she was finally processing. But the real transformation came during the holidays. As Thanksgiving approached, Emma called me with a request that caught me off guard. Mom, I want to host Thanksgiving this year. Here at our apartment. Just you, me, Daniel, Lily, and Aunt Rebecca if she can come. Small and intimate. I felt a flutter of anxiety. Are you sure? That's a lot of work with a 6-month-old. She laughed. I know. But I want to do it. I want to show you that I can be the one to take care of everyone for once. Will you let me? There was something in her voice, a pleading note that wasn't about getting what she wanted, but about proving something to herself. Of course, I said softly. I'd love that. She paused. There's one condition though. You're not allowed to help. At all. You're a guest, Mom. You just get to show up and enjoy. The words hit me like a wave. How many holidays had I spent cooking for everyone while Emma sat on her phone? How many times had I begged for help only to be dismissed? And now here she was offering me the gift of being cared for. Thanksgiving Day arrived with a cold snap that made the world feel crisp and bright. I drove to Emma's apartment with just a bottle of wine and a pie I had bought from the bakery, not made myself per Emma's strict instructions. When she opened the door, flour dusted across her cheek and Lily babbling in a bouncer nearby, she looked frazzled but happy. Don't you dare ask if you can help, she said immediately, pointing a wooden spoon at me. Rebecca is already in the kitchen driving me crazy with offers. You both go sit down and let me do this. Rebecca emerged from the kitchen, grinning at me. She's serious. She physically pushed me out when I tried to peel potatoes. I laughed and settled onto the couch, Rebecca sitting beside me. It felt strange, foreign even, to sit in someone else's kitchen while holiday cooking happened without me. But it also felt wonderful. Emma had music playing, and I could hear her singing along badly while she worked. Daniel kept wandering in to help and getting shooed away. And Lily, sweet Lily, was content in her bouncer, watching all the activity with wide eyes. This is surreal, Rebecca whispered to me. I never thought I'd see the day. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. When dinner was finally ready, Emma carried out a beautiful turkey, golden and perfectly roasted. She had made stuffing and mashed potatoes and green beans and cranberry sauce, everything from scratch. She set it all on the table with pride shining in her eyes. I did it, she announced. I actually did it. We all applauded, and she blushed. As we sat down to eat, Emma raised her glass. I want to make a toast. To my mom, who taught me everything I know about cooking even though I never appreciated it. Who showed me what strength looks like by standing up for herself when I treated her terribly. Who gave me the gift of boundaries even though it was the hardest thing she'd ever done. Mom, this dinner is for you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Tears streamed down my face as I clinked my glass against hers. Thank you for fighting to be better, Emma. I'm so proud of the woman you're becoming. The meal was delicious, made even better by the fact that I hadn't had to make it. We laughed and told stories and passed Lily around the table. And when it was over, Emma insisted on doing all the dishes herself while the rest of us relaxed. I watched her from the couch, this daughter of mine who had finally learned what it meant to give without expecting anything in return, and I felt a peace settle over me that I had never known before. Later, as I was getting ready to leave, Emma walked me to the door with Lily in her arms. Mom, I have something I want to ask you. I waited curious. Daniel and I have been talking, and we want you to be more involved in Lily's life. Not just visits but real involvement. We want you to be her primary babysitter when I go back to work. If you want to, we'd pay you, of course. I felt my heart skip. Emma, you don't have to pay me. She shook her head firmly. Yes, I do. This isn't about using you for free childcare. This is a job, and you deserve to be compensated for your time. Plus, it means you can cut back your hours at the library if you want. I know you've been talking about semi-retirement. I stared at her, overwhelmed. Are you sure about this? She met my eyes. I'm sure. I want my daughter to know her grandmother. Really know her. I want her to learn from you all the things I was too stubborn to learn. And selfishly, I want you around more. I missed out on so much time with you, and I don't want to miss any more. I pulled her into a hug, careful not to squish Lily between us. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. As I drove home that night, I thought about how far we had come. From that devastating moment when I discovered my credit card on her registry to this, being invited into her life in a meaningful way, it felt like a journey of 1,000 miles. But we had walked it together step by painful step, and we had arrived somewhere beautiful. The months that followed were some of the happiest of my life. I reduced my hours at the library to part-time and began watching Lily 3 days a week. Those days were filled with baby giggles, messy meal times, afternoon walks through the park, and the simple joy of being needed in a healthy way. Emma would drop Lily off in the morning with everything I needed, always asking if I was sure I was up for it, never assuming. And when she picked Lily up in the evening, she would sit and talk with me for a while, asking about my day, sharing about hers. The relationship we were building was nothing like the one we'd had before. It was better, deeper, rooted in mutual respect rather than one-sided obligation. But life has a way of testing progress, and the real challenge came on a cold February morning when Emma showed up at my door unannounced, something she hadn't done since our falling out. I opened the door to find her standing there in her pajamas, no coat, her face streaked with tears, and Lily bundled in a blanket in her arms. Emma, what happened? I ushered her inside quickly, worried. She sank onto my couch, holding Lily too tightly. Daniel and I had a huge fight, the biggest we've ever had. He left for work angry, and I've been sitting in the apartment alone all morning spiraling, and I didn't know where else to go. I sat beside her, putting a hand on her back. What was the fight about? She took a shaky breath. Money. It's always about money. We're struggling, Mom. Daniel's company did layoffs and he barely kept his job, but they cut his salary by 15%. And my maternity leave is ending soon, which means daycare costs. We're behind on rent and the credit card bills are piling up, and I just feel like we're drowning. I listened, my heart aching for her stress but also bracing myself. This felt like the kind of moment where the old Emma would ask for money, where she would expect me to swoop in and solve everything. I'm sorry you're going through this, I said carefully. That sounds incredibly stressful. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I didn't come here to ask you for money, if that's what you're thinking. I can see it on your face, that worry. I relaxed slightly. Okay. She looked at me, really looked at me. I came here because I needed my mom. I needed someone to tell me it's going to be okay. I needed to not be alone with all this fear. My eyes filled with tears. Oh, sweetheart. Come here. I pulled her into my arms, Lily nestled between us, and just held her while she cried. When she finally pulled back, I asked gently, have you and Daniel talked about a budget? About what you can cut or adjust? She nodded. We started last night. That's what the fight was about. He wants to cancel our streaming services and stop eating out, and I got defensive because those are the only small pleasures we have. But he's right. We need to make changes. I thought carefully about what to say next. You know, when your father left and I was suddenly managing on one income, I had to make a lot of hard choices. I can help you look at your budget if you want. Not by giving you money, but by sharing what I learned about cutting costs and prioritizing. She looked at me gratefully. Would you really do that? I smiled. Of course. That's what mothers do. We share our wisdom, not just our wallets. We spent the next hour going through her finances on her phone, and I was surprised by how willing she was to be vulnerable about it. She showed me everything, the debts, the late payments, the impulse purchases she regretted. Together we identified areas where they could save, and I shared practical tips I had learned during my own financial struggles. When we were done, Emma looked exhausted but hopeful. Thank you, Mom. This helps so much. I squeezed her hand. You're going to get through this. It won't be easy, but you and Daniel are a team. You'll figure it out. She stood to leave, bundling Lily back up. Then she hesitated. Mom, there is one thing. I wasn't going to ask, but I feel like I should be honest with you about everything now. I braced myself. What is it? She bit her lip. Would you be willing to watch Lily for free? Just until we get back on our feet financially? I know we agreed to pay you and I want to, but if we could redirect that money toward rent for a few months, it would make such a difference. I sat with the request, feeling it out. This was different from the old dynamic. She was asking, not demanding. She was being honest about her needs, not manipulative. And she had come to me for support, not just for a solution. I can do that, I said finally. But I have a condition. Her face fell slightly. What is it? I met her eyes. That when you're back on your feet, you don't start paying me. Instead, you start putting that money into a savings account for emergencies. Build yourselves a cushion so that the next time something goes wrong, you have options. She stared at me and then fresh tears spilled over. You're still teaching me, aren't you? Even now. I smiled. That's my job. Not to fix everything for you, but to help you learn to fix things yourself. She hugged me tightly. I love you, Mom. I don't say that enough, but I love you so much. My voice cracked. I love you too, baby. So much. After she left, I sat in my quiet house thinking about what had just happened. The old me would have immediately written a check, would have thrown money at the problem to make her stress go away. But that wouldn't have helped her grow. It wouldn't have taught her resilience or resourcefulness. This new way of loving her, with boundaries and wisdom instead of just sacrifice, was harder. But it was also healthier for both of us. Over the following months, I watched Emma and Daniel work hard to dig themselves out of their financial hole. They made sacrifices, canceled subscriptions, ate at home, and slowly, steadily their situation improved. Emma kept me updated, not because she needed my approval but because she was proud of their progress and wanted to share it. And I celebrated every small victory with her, every paid-off bill, every month they made rent on time. By summer, they were stable again, and Emma surprised me one afternoon by showing me a savings account statement. Look, she said, pointing to the balance. $3,000. It's not much, but it's ours. Our emergency fund. I felt pride swell in my chest. Emma, this is incredible. You did this. She shook her head. We did this. You taught me how. As Lily's first birthday approached, Emma insisted on throwing a party, but this time, everything was different. She sent me an invitation in the mail, a real paper invitation with my name on it. She called to ask what food I thought would be good. She invited my friends from the library along with her friends. And when the day came, she had arranged for a caterer to handle the food because, as she told me with a laugh, she wanted to actually enjoy the party instead of spending it in the kitchen stressed. The party was beautiful, held in a local park with balloons and decorations and a small cake smash set up for Lily. I stood watching my granddaughter dig her tiny hands into frosting, smearing it everywhere while everyone laughed and took pictures. Emma came up beside me, slipping her arm through mine. Thank you for coming, Mom. I looked at her confused. Of course I came. Why wouldn't I? She smiled softly. A year ago, I wouldn't have even invited you. I would have just expected you to show up and work. But now I want you here as a guest, as Lily's grandmother, as my mom. Not as help. I felt tears prick my eyes for what felt like the 100th time that day. This is all I ever wanted, Emma. To just be part of your life. She leaned her head on my shoulder. You are. You really are. As the party wound down and families started to leave, Daniel pulled me aside. I wanted to thank you, he said, for everything you've done for Emma. For us. She's a different person now. Stronger, more confident, more self-aware. And I know that's because you loved her enough to let her struggle. I squeezed his arm. She did the hard work, Daniel. I just held the boundary. He nodded. Well, it made all the difference. I have my wife back. The woman I fell in love with, who got buried under anxiety and control and defensiveness. She's back, and it's because you didn't give up. As I drove home that evening, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. It had started with betrayal, with my credit card on a registry for a party I wasn't invited to. It had continued through pain and boundaries and hard conversations. And it had led to this, a relationship with my daughter that was built on something solid, something real. I thought about the woman I had been a year ago, standing in my living room staring at that email, feeling invisible and used. That woman had been so afraid of losing her daughter that she had been willing to accept crumbs. But somewhere along the way, I had realized that I couldn't lose what I never really had. And in letting go of the illusion of closeness, in demanding respect and setting boundaries, I had created the space for something genuine to grow. The years that followed were not perfect. Emma and I still had disagreements. There were still moments when old patterns tried to resurface, when she would slip into expecting too much or I would slip into giving too much. But we had learned to catch ourselves, to call each other out with love, to course correct before small issues became big problems. When Lily turned 3, Emma gave birth to a son, and she named him after my father. I want him to have a name that means something, she told me, placing the tiny baby in my arms. A name that connects him to the strong, principled man who raised you. Because you've taught me what it means to have integrity, and I want that for my children. I held my grandson, overwhelmed with emotion, and thought about how far we had come. From a relationship built on unspoken resentment and one-sided obligation to this. A relationship where my daughter honored me by naming her child after my father. It was more than I had ever dared to hope for. As time passed and my grandchildren grew, I remained an active part of their lives, but always in a way that was healthy and balanced. I watched them 1 or 2 days a week, always by arrangement, never by assumption. I celebrated their birthdays and holidays as a cherished guest, not as unpaid labor. And I modeled for them what it looked like to be a woman who knew her worth, who set boundaries, who loved herself enough to demand respect. Emma often told me that her therapist said our story was remarkable, that the kind of transformation we had achieved in our relationship was rare. Most people, she said, either stayed stuck in toxic patterns or cut each other off completely. But we had found a third way, the hard way, the way that required both of us to change and grow. One afternoon when Lily was 5 and her brother was 2, I was at Emma's house when Lily asked me a question that stopped me in my tracks. "Grandma, why do you and Mommy say I love you so much?" I looked at Emma, who was smiling softly, and then back at Lily. "Because we do love each other very much, sweetheart. And it's important to say it out loud so people know." Lily tilted her head, thinking. "But Mommy says you didn't always say it this much. She says you had to learn how." Out of the mouths of babes. I pulled Lily onto my lap. "That's true. Your Mommy and I went through a hard time where we forgot how to show our love in healthy ways. But we worked very hard to fix that. And now we make sure to tell each other how we feel." Lily nodded solemnly. "I'm glad you fixed it. I like it when families are happy." I hugged her tight. "Me too, baby. Me too." That evening after the kids were in bed, Emma and I sat on her porch with cups of tea, watching the sun set. "Do you ever think about that baby shower?" she asked quietly. "The one where your credit card was listed but you weren't invited?" I nodded. "Sometimes. It feels like a lifetime ago now." She was quiet for a moment. "I think about it a lot. About what I did to you. About how close I came to losing you forever." I reached over and took her hand. "But you didn't lose me. We found each other instead." She squeezed my fingers. I tell that story sometimes in therapy. When my therapist asks me about the turning point in my life, I tell her about the day my mom removed her credit card from my baby registry and went to the mountains instead of coming to my shower. About how furious I was and how humiliated. And about how it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I felt my throat tighten. "Really?" She nodded, tears shining in her eyes. "Because it forced me to wake up. To see what I had become. To realize that I was destroying the most important relationship in my life, because I was too selfish and too broken to appreciate it. You standing up for yourself saved us both, Mom. It saved me from becoming a person I would have hated. And it saved you from disappearing completely." We sat there in the gathering darkness, 2 women who had walked through fire and come out stronger on the other side. And I knew with absolute certainty that every hard moment had been worth it. Because this relationship we had built from the ashes of the old one was real. It was built on truth and respect and the kind of love that doesn't just give and give until there's nothing left, but the kind that also knows when to stop, when to say no, when to demand better. As the stars began to appear in the sky above us, I thought about the woman I had been, so afraid of conflict that she would rather be used than risk confrontation. And I thought about the woman I had become, someone who knew that real love sometimes looks like saying no, like setting boundaries, like walking away from a baby shower and booking a flight to the mountains instead. That woman had saved my life. And in doing so, she had saved my daughter's life too. Because Emma didn't need a mother who would sacrifice herself endlessly. She needed a mother who would show her what self-respect looked like, what healthy boundaries looked like, what real love looked like. And now, watching her raise her own children with the lessons we had both learned, I could see that the legacy I was leaving wasn't just one of service and sacrifice. It was a legacy of strength, of knowing your worth, of building relationships on mutual respect, rather than one-sided obligation. That was a gift I could be proud of. That was a gift worth all the pain it had taken to learn. The seasons continued to change, and with them, our family continued to grow and evolve. But the foundation we had built remained solid, tested by time and challenges but never breaking. Because we had learned the most important lesson of all, that love without respect is not really love at all. It's just a pretty name for being used. And we refused to settle for that ever again. As I sat there on Emma's porch, her hand in mine, I sent up a silent prayer of gratitude for the courage I had found that day when I removed my credit card from her registry. For the strength to choose myself when everyone expected me to choose sacrifice. For the wisdom to know that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their actions. That choice had changed everything. It had given me my daughter back. It had given me my life back. And it had taught both of us that we were worth more than we had been settling for. That was a lesson I would carry with me for the rest of my days, and one I hoped my grandchildren would learn by watching us. Because they deserve to know that love should never make you small, that family should never make you invisible, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply say no. Years passed and I found myself standing in the same spot where this journey had begun, in my living room, but everything was different now. The house that once echoed with loneliness now filled regularly with the sounds of my grandchildren's laughter. Emma called me yesterday, not because she needed anything, but because she wanted to hear my voice. That simple gesture still made my heart full. I looked at the photo on my mantle, the one from Lily's 8th birthday party last month. Emma had her arm around me, both of us genuinely smiling, no tension in our shoulders, no unspoken resentment in our eyes. Just a mother and daughter who had fought their way back to each other and built something beautiful from the broken pieces. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. A photo of Lily helping her make dinner. The kitchen messy with flour and vegetables scattered across the counter. The caption read, "Teaching her what you taught me. That cooking with love means making memories, not just meals." I smiled, my eyes misting over. She understood now. She finally understood. I thought about that woman I used to be. The one who discovered her credit card on a baby registry for a party she wasn't invited to. The one who felt so invisible, so taken for granted, that she could barely recognize herself anymore. That woman had been terrified of losing her daughter, so terrified that she was willing to accept scraps and call it love. But in choosing to walk away, in removing that credit card and setting that first boundary, she had actually found a way back to herself. And in finding herself, she had created space for her daughter to find her too. The hardest part about setting boundaries had been trusting that love could survive them. I had believed for so long that if I stopped giving everything, if I stopped sacrificing every piece of myself, Emma would disappear from my life completely. But the opposite had proven true. When I stopped making myself small, when I demanded to be seen and respected, Emma had finally been able to see me. Not as a resource or a solution to her problems, but as a person worthy of consideration and care. Today, Emma and I have coffee together every Tuesday morning. It's our ritual, just the two of us talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes we discuss the grandchildren, sometimes we talk about her therapy breakthroughs, sometimes we just sit in comfortable silence. But whatever we do, I show up as a guest in her life, not as her servant. And she shows up as my daughter, not as someone who only remembers I exist when she needs something. I've learned that teaching someone how to treat you is one of the greatest acts of love you can offer, both to them and to yourself. Because when you accept less than you deserve, you're not just hurting yourself. You're teaching the people you love that it's acceptable to treat others as disposable, as means to an end rather than as whole human beings deserving of respect. Emma tells her friends now about what happened, about the baby shower she planned where her own mother wasn't invited, about the credit card she used without permission, about the wake-up call that changed her life. She doesn't tell it with shame anymore but with gratitude, because that moment of confrontation, as painful as it was, had been the catalyst for her transformation into the woman she was always meant to be. Last week, Lily asked me to tell her about a time I was really brave. I thought about all the conventional answers I could give, but instead, I told her the truth. I told her about the morning I booked a flight instead of cooking a Christmas dinner I didn't want to make. About the day I removed my credit card from a registry and refused to be used. About choosing myself when everyone expected me to choose sacrifice. Her eyes went wide, and she said something that made my heart soar. "Grandma, you're like a superhero but for real life." Maybe she was right. Maybe the real superpower isn't being able to do everything for everyone. Maybe it's knowing when to say no, when to protect your own peace, when to demand better. And maybe the real happy ending isn't everyone getting what they want, but everyone learning to give and receive love in healthy ways. As I sit here now looking out at the life I've built, the relationships I've restored, the boundaries I've maintained, I feel something I haven't felt in decades. Peace. Not the false peace that comes from avoiding conflict, but the real peace that comes from living authentically, from being seen and valued, from loving people who love you back with the same care and consideration you give them. The journey from that devastating discovery to this moment of contentment had been long and painful. There were days I wanted to give up, to go back to the old ways because they were familiar, even if they were destroying me. But I'm grateful I didn't. I'm grateful I found the courage to choose myself, to set boundaries, to teach my daughter that love without respect is not love at all. And now when I hold my grandchildren, I know I'm not just loving them. I'm modeling for them what it looks like to be a person of worth, to demand respect, to build relationships on solid ground rather than shaky obligations. That's a legacy I can be proud of. That's a gift that will outlive me. The woman who removed her credit card from that registry wasn't being selfish or dramatic. She was being brave. She was choosing life over slow erasure. She was choosing to be seen. And in doing so, she gave her daughter the greatest gift she could offer. The truth that we are all worthy of being loved for who we are, not what we can provide. That truth had set us both free. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.